Hey everybody. So today we are going to take a look at graphing reciprocal functions. Okay, we are going to use a Desmos calculator to sketch a graph. So if you could pull that up on your phone or on your computer, we are going to sketch a real quick graph. Doesn't have to be beautiful by any means. We are going to identify the domain and the range, and we are going to tell what the asymptotes are. Okay. And making sure we're doing the vertical and horizontal asymptotes. Okay? Alright, so number 1 says f of x equals 1 over x minus 2. So I'm going to go to Desmos calculator, and I have my blank screen, and I'm going to do 1 divided by x minus 2. Now look what happens if I do minus 2. Does that match this? Okay, so instead of the minus 2 next to the x, I'm going to push out here beside it and just touch, because I don't have like a cursor, or I guess, oh, look, I have a little cursor right here that does that too. Minus 2 at the back. Cool. Okay, so this is what my graph is going to look like, so I'm going to sketch that. Okay, I'm going to put it over here on this side. Alright, so I'm going to do, pretend that these are straight. Notice that it comes down over here. So actually, if you want, if you're on your phone or even on your computer, you can use 2 fingers and you can kind of stretch and wind. Do you see how this never crosses the x-axis? Yeah, that's a good clue. Okay, and then where does it level out? Where does it jump here? Okay, do you see it right here? If I connect these, do you see what number I'm at? Let me come in a little bit closer. Okay, if I connect these, do you see what number I'm at? Right there, 2. So I'm going to have a break in my graph at -2, and I have a break in my graph at 0. Okay, so you might want to do that first. There's a break in my graph at 0, and there's a break in my graph at -2. That's a dotted line. Okay, from right here. There's 0 next to the x, and this is my -2. Okay, and then it's going to go like this. Doesn't have to be fancy. Okay, but we don't want it to touch that. Alright, so let's do the asymptotes first. Vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote. Vertically, what number is this? This is x equals 0. Nothing next to the x. X equals 0. Our horizontal asymptote going this way is at -2. Y equals -2. Okay, so that's going to tell me my domain and range. Okay, the domain is going to be all x values from -infinity to +infinity. All real numbers except x can't be 0. The range comes from this horizontal asymptote. My range is all y values except y cannot equal -2. That's where the break is. That is a weird squiggle. Okay, so these are the answers that we are looking for today. Sketching a graph and then determining domain, range, and the asymptotes. Okay. Alright, here's number 2. F of x equals 3 over x minus 2 minus 2. So I just hit the little x right here and I just cleared the equation that I had. So I'm going to type, touch in the box, 3 divided by x minus 2. And then I'm going to get out of that fraction and do minus 2 out behind it. Okay, so here's my equation. Here's my graph, I guess. Okay, so same quadrants, not changing. I need that vertical asymptote and the horizontal asymptote before I graph, and that'll make my life a lot easier. Okay, vertical asymptote comes from where? This is our x's. And sometimes it doesn't have it. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes they don't have it. Sometimes they have more than one. Okay, there are different equations and different functions. Okay, we'll get there. For right now, they're either going to have one or none. Okay, one of each or none. All right, so my vertical asymptote has to do with this x value. This says minus 2. So when I write it here, I'm going to write it as positive 2. So I'm going to have x. This is my x-axis. So at x is positive 2. This is right here. This is x is 2. I'm going to put a vertical asymptote through that number. 2. My horizontal comes from my k value, which is out here at the back. That says minus 2. So that's going to be, if this says minus 2, then y equals negative 2. Same. So my y-axis, I'm going to go to negative 2, which is right down here. Negative 2, and I put a dotted line through that. Okay, so once I have that, then you can just kind of real quick throw in those other lines. So the line comes this way up here in the first quadrant. So it's going to start along here. And it's going to go, shoop, it's going to kind of sweep through there. And then same thing down here. Okay, if we cared about finding like that focal point or that center, we could, but I'm not really worried about that. I just need you recognizing them. Okay. All right. 2 more, just for practice. Practice, practice, practice. All right, so horizontal and, wait, which one goes first? Sorry, vertical first, horizontal next. Vertical is x, horizontal is y. Okay, so if there is no number here, you're just going to cross it out, like it didn't have one. But for today, they're all going to have them. Okay. So the vertical comes from the x value. So down here, what numbers with the x? Nothing. So there's going to be a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. So here's the x-axis. Find 0. This is x is 0. So vertically through that point. Vertical. Vertical at 0. Horizontal is our y value. This number out here at the end is our y value. That says plus 1. So y is positive 1. We're going to have a horizontal asymptote there. So I'm going to find y is 1. So this is my y-axis. I'm going to find positive 1. Here's 1. And I'm going to draw a horizontal line through that. Okay. Now, the only other thing for sketching my graph is to decide if it's going to be in these 2 quadrants, like the last 2 that we've done, or if it's going to switch. So how do I tell if it's done that from my equation? This negative right here. The negative is going to flip that for us. So if you want to see what it looks like, negative 4 over x plus 1. I don't know if that. Okay, so it is reflected. The 4 means it pushes back a little bit farther. It doesn't start quite as close to center, but whatever. Okay. So my last thing for this, oh, I don't know that I did it for the last one. Yeah, let's go back and do our domain and range. Oh, I think we skipped it on last one. The domain are all of our x values, and this goes from negative infinity to positive infinity, except at 0. X cannot be 0. Our range are all y values, because this is a continual graph from top to bottom, except it has this break right here at positive 1. So y cannot be positive 1. Okay, I'm going to sneak back to number 2 since I missed the domain and range for those. Okay, domain is x values, except x cannot be 2. And the range, all y values except for y can't be negative 2. Okay. Okay, last one. Here's what I'd like for you to do. I would like for you to pause, and I would like for you to do this one by yourself and check vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptote, okay, and then pause it again, and then write the domain and range and sketch your graph. Okay, hopefully you're using pencil, so if you mess up, it is okay to erase. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay, so pause. All right, for the vertical asymptote, did you get x equals -4? So on our x-axis, if we go to -4, right here, this is x is -4. We're going to put a vertical dotted line through that one. And for your horizontal, did you get y equals -7? Awesome. So at y is -7, 1, 2, 3, we'll pretend that this is -7. We're going to put a dot right through there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Whatever. Okay. So when I sketch this, is it going to be in the original 2 quadrants, or is it going to be in reflected? It's in the original 2, so it's going to be something like this. Whatever. Okay. All right, and pause again if you have not already written the domain and range. If you have written the domain and range, did you write all x values except -4? And the range is all y values except -7. Whoop, whoop. Awesome. Okay, so what happens is people look at that word asymptote and they think, oh my gosh, that's really hard. I don't know what that means. Okay, asymptotes are simply a break in our graph. Okay, it's like a brick wall. The graph cannot jump over that brick wall. It's just a stop in it. Okay, and it's actually pretty easy. Okay, I love you. Miss you. Let me know if you have questions, all right? Bye.